This could have been a really hype show, but I guess we need to wait for a couple more days. Let's hope so. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 93rd episode of the oldest Denver Nuggets spin-off podcast. Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets' Serbian Corner. Please let me remind you to like and share the episode on social networks of your choice. If you want to support the show even more directly, you can become a Patreon on patreon.com/Miroslav Chuk. You can find the link in the description. My name is Miroslav Chuk, and the week behind us started with me not sleeping for 40 hours straight, since I had to stay up for a 2 a.m. Game 4 start, and then went straight to work after being unable to sleep from the excitement of Nuggets tying up the series 2-2 after 2 road wins. It was almost a perfect Nuggets game. They survived the amazing game from Anthony Edwards, who scored 44 points on 25 shots or something like that. They also survived a 4-point Michael Porter game and a 3-point KCP game. Those guys did their parts on defense, but it was the Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon duo that laid a smack on the Timberwolves. And Nikola is such a douche, man. Aaron played the game of his life, 27, 7, and 6, or 90% from the field, just to be overshadowed by Joker's 35, 7, and 7 with 3 steals. Come on, man. Jamal was great passing the ball and also had a couple of super hot stretches that helped him reach almost 20 points, even though he was called for most of the game. But the biggest X factor of this game was the trio of Reggie, Justin, and Christian. All of them played pretty perfect fifth option minutes. They combined for 6 of 9 from the outside, and nobody is surviving a game in which the Nuggets bench shoots that well. Cat was horrible, and Rudy Gobert was almost useless against the best offensive player of all time. 2 days later, back in the Mile High, the biggest news was the late scratch of Mike Conley due to Achilles soreness, and of course a couple of new scratches on Nikola Jokic's body. Debuted. Denver used the fact that Monty Morris was the only point guard left on the Timberwolves team to pressure Anthony Edwards on the ball, and it was something he didn't respond well to. KCP started hitting shots again, Aaron was incredible again, and Joker was dancing with the ball like the lead character in Disney's Fantasia, completely dismantling the Wolves' defense. It was a comfortable win, even with a very average game from Jamal and an underwhelming game from Porter. 3 days later, last night, Game 6 at Target Center. After allowing a complete prison ball in Game 2 of this series, Mark Jones came back and swallowed his whistle again. The plan Minnesota had in this game was to send hard doubles on Nikola and make everybody else, and especially Jamal, beat them with scoring. The plan worked like a charm. Jamal couldn't get any separation on jump shots and drives, and everybody was bricking from the outside. So the Wolves could run and finish in transition. The 20-point difference at the half became 25 after the third quarter, and that is when I decided I'd had enough of this game and went back to bed. Garbage time didn't help. It was almost a 50-point lead at one point. In the end, let's be fair. The Nuggets got lucky for Jamal not being suspended for Game 3, and also the Wolves not having Mike Conley in Game 5. It is only fair that this series and the destiny of this season's Nuggets postseason will be decided in Game 7 on Sunday. Okay, that's enough of my handsome face dominating the screen. It is time to bring my squad for today. My first guest for tonight, or for today, was one of my hiking trip hosts in the Rockies. He is my fellow karaoke singer and also an art photographer. By the way, I'm still waiting for you to send me those long speak photos. But I guess most people know him as a producer of Super Kind on the DNVR show. It is Kalle Time Lord Sorbo. Welcome back to the show, Kalle.
What's up, Miroslav? Thanks for having me, man.
So I believe you are the only one who didn't get the chance to share your impressions from that hiking trip 8 hours after I landed in Colorado, jet-lagged as F. I know
Yeah.
it was a while ago. Do you remember anything from it?
Of course I remember. No, it was an awesome trip. It was super fun. We got as lucky as we could. We drove up into Rocky Mountain National Park, and I have to clarify, I've been to Rocky Mountain National Park probably 100 times in my life, and I've never seen the amount of wildlife we saw on the day that we went with you. So it was super cool. Colorado showed out to give Miroslav a warm welcome, and I was very, very happy to share that day with you guys, and it was a very, very good brothership experience. I'm glad I got to be there.
Oh, and I wish I was able to immerse myself better, and not being super sleepy while we're doing that. But I did get some points of reference, and thank God there are some photos from that day, so I can try to remember some of the sites we've seen. Okay, my second guest is my favorite sports writer. Period. You can and should read his stuff every Friday on the WKND on DNVR.com. And I know that sounds like some local radio station. It's not. It's a weekly column on all the Colorado sports. He is an a cappella singer and a former trombonist. It's my friend Mike Olson. Welcome back to the show, Mike.
You are always so kind about all of that, Miro. Thank you. I have so much fun doing this for this site. It's a good time. It was interesting trying to find something to write about last night, though, after the way I don't know anybody who watched that fourth quarter voluntarily. So only those who were forced. Sorry, Kalle.
Yeah, it was rough. I had luckily enough, I have enough to get ready for the show that I can kind of turn my focus elsewhere.
Understandably, God, that was a bummer of a night. It definitely. You were right. This series deserves a game 7. I hate that we've insured it so handily, but yeah, here we go.
It just wouldn't be fair after all we've seen to win in 6. Like, honestly, it wouldn't be fair.
Here's what I'll say, though. After we went down 0-2, after the worst performance of this era in Game 2, if you would have found out that night that they forced it to go 7, you would have taken that 10 times out of 10. Okay. So, we've got a chance. Yeah. We've got a chance on their home floor to close it out. And if you win this, you probably win the title. So everything's there, right, for them.
Yeah. So Mike, I mentioned that you're my favorite sports writer, and last week you compared the Joker to having a root canal done. I took that wildly out of context, of course, but how do you find inspiration to find new hyperboles when talking about a silly thing the sports are?
Oh, wow. I wish I knew the answer to that question. A lot of times I don't think they work. So I'm glad you liked that one. I feel like sometimes he feels like he's having a root canal done in some of those moments, right? And I still see stuff like he's just so damned misunderstood. And that was the point I was making is, you've got to stick around to get the joke with this guy because he takes a little bit of time. I saw an article just a couple days ago where they quoted him on the I need to clone myself. And they didn't bring it up as if he were kidding or messing around at all. They just basically said it as if it were factual and they moved on. It's you got to pay attention to get the joke with the Joker.
Yeah, his jokes are super dry and they're also 90% true. So, it is what it is. Okay, my last guest for today might be the most creative person I ever met. He is an actor, a comedian, a producer, a director, and yet he hasn't hooked me up with an IMDb page yet. Shaking my head. He is a Nuggets season ticket holder for God knows how many years, originally from Michigan, but a Denverite for a long time. It's Andy Juett. Welcome back to the show, Glenn.
Hey, Miroslav. Glad to be here with you. Glad to see Mike and Kalle be on the show among such fine fellows. Welcome to my 6,000 square foot home out in Highlands Ranch. I got 4 garages. I got 1 fridge for Sam's Club, 1 fridge for Costco. I have a 10-disc changer, 10 compact discs. Which one do you want to hear? I got some cousins that owe me money living in a pool house. They power wash my boat and they pick up my cleaning. It feels good to be successful, like the Denver Nuggets before last night.
Andy, I know you're doing a bit here, but I went to high school in Highlands Ranch, and the accuracy with which you just called out my whole childhood is remarkable.
We're gonna close off the cul-de-sac. We're gonna have a bake sale with my sons Braylon and Skylar, who are home from CU. They're gonna do some a cappella singing with Kalle later in the evening if you guys are have some time.
Again, I know you're joking. All accurate.
So Andrew, may I call you Andrew?
Sure.
You know I'm obsessed with comedy. So tell me, what is coming to Denver in the near future, comedy-wise?
Oh man, I'm a little out of the loop, to be honest. There's always good shows at Comedy Works. That's just a given. Comedy Works and the Improv are sort of the staples. But if I have to plug something, I'd say go see. There's two shows I would mention. Go see the monthly show at The Process. The Process is at like 10th and Bannock. This really great guy named Scott Schaefer runs it. And he just put out his special today. It's on YouTube. You can watch it for free, or maybe yesterday. Or go to see the Denver Comedy Lounge. It's in the back of the Colorado Sake Company. You get sushi and sake, and then in the back, Frank Kronberg runs an elite room where you can chill and have a nice date night. So there's the comedy plug that hopefully you're looking for.
Okay, I really enjoyed this first part of the show, and unfortunately, we'll have to talk about the Nuggets after this first short break. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back, and let's start with what we've seen from the Nuggets and the Wolves as a whole in this series so far. So, what is the best and what is the worst part of the Nuggets showing so far? Let's start with Kalle.
The best and the worst parts of the Nuggets showing.
Like 10,000 feet view.
The 10,000 feet view, the best thing that's happened is Jokic just went on the best 3-game stretch of his career, and it was truly, truly something to behold. He is, in a way, obviously the Nuggets' backs have been up against the wall before, but never in a moment where there was real title expectations. And to see, last year they blew through everybody, so it was never. I guess you could say game 5 against Phoenix, but it just didn't feel the same. And Jokic came out after being down 0-2 and just painted his masterpiece over 3 games, capped off by probably the best game of his career in game 5. And that, as we were all people that bought in on Jokic incredibly early. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And to see that come to fruition in probably the game I've watched in my life where a singular player just had complete control from start to finish the most. The way he dictated that game on offense and on defense was absolutely stunning. The worst of the Nuggets is they have a propensity, and this unfortunately goes back all year, to either look like the greatest team ever assembled or a team that, if things aren't going their way early, they just pack it up. And it's been that way all year. If you look back on the Knicks blowouts, if you look back on a couple of the OKC games, when they decide that they are not there, the role players, if their shots aren't going in, they sort of get uninvolved, and the game sort of spirals from there. And that is not a habit I love. They might win the title regardless this year because they're just that talented. And when things are going right, the pieces fit so seamlessly together. But when those pieces are off, they have a tendency to fold kind of early. And that obviously we saw that happen in both games 2 and game 6 of this series. And I don't love that habit from the Nuggets at all. And it's definitely probably my biggest concern moving forward. And I think the area where they miss Bruce Brown the most, because he was, especially in the playoffs last year, even if it was just a couple bucket run where he could get 4 or 5 points when Jokic wasn't on the floor, he was able to be this sort of calming presence, and he just never backed down his energy. So I think that's where they miss Bruce the most, is Like that bench run when Jokic first came out of the game last night and nobody else could score, you could tell the team just kind of packed it in after that. And I hated that, and I think that's where they miss Bruce.
Yeah, the thing they miss Bruce the most, I believe, is the fact that mid-game, when they see Jamal doesn't have it, they can just bench him for 6 minutes and would not miss a beat with Bruce on the court. Like, Bruce would be the main initiator, of course, Joker is the main initiator, but Bruce is the one that's going to start everything, and then Joker will just carve the other team up. But yeah, I agree. So, Mike, what Kalle just mentioned about Denver just giving up as soon as they realize they're not in the game, is that experience, or is it like a super bad habit?
I think it's a super bad habit. And while I thought we had a much better killer instinct last season, I think we also had the advantage of good health through all of last postseason, coming into last postseason even. I think the tough part for me that way is Kalle's right on the nose about the Jekyll and Hyde nature of all of this. This team and the bad habit, the big bad habit, Malone was calling it out, especially through the first half of the season. And I think he backed off just because maybe he felt like he was getting to be a broken record. But when their shots aren't falling, they stop defending. And it's not stop, but and it makes sense that they have a harder time defending off of those defensive rebounds, off of those fast breaks, everything that's doing. But those are the moments that the teams that you remember a decade or more later, they get better at defense when their offense isn't falling. They find a way to toughen up in a game after some fashion when stuff is not going the way that it ought to. And we are very feast or famine right now. And even if we make it through this Game 7 feasting, you have to wonder if there are 8 more in us to go get that ring, right? So,
Andy, you look like put me in, coach.
It was a good time for him to freeze.
Oh, he did freeze. Okay, I thought he was like playing freeze.
Who are you trying to talk to me? I thought you froze. Okay.
Yeah. So you look like you like put me in, coach. Like, I'm ready to dominate this game.
I'm always. You know what I think we really need, guys? I think we really need like a Knicks locker room fart moment. We need something to really bring the group together. Because you look at this team and you go, God damn, you watch any of the other series, the teams that are winning or losing, and there's not a lot of times where the teams don't show up. And unfortunately, we'll get accused of Murray hating and all those things. But, it's really, to me, coming down to the fact that, MPJ was such a dominant, delightful force in the first 5 games, or the first 5-game series with the Lakers. And now he's down to 4, 6, and 8 in the last 3 games. And normally he contributes in other areas and gets the hustle stats up, rebounds. He steps in the passing lane. He'll get a deflection. He'll start a fast break, all those things. But between MPJ kind of just not really being able to knock it down the last couple games and Murray sort of mentally not being attitudinally where we need to be, I think we're teetering on the edge of, like Kalle said, they could win the title and none of the 4 of us would be surprised. But now we're all dealing with the sobering reality that Sunday is a day that makes or breaks us. And to be frank, talent-wise, continuity-wise, in my opinion, again, we're just guys. But none of this should be happening because they go stretches the last 6 or 7 years with Jamal, MPJ, AG, Jokic, some combination. You throw Will Barton and Gary and Monte and everybody else in there. They have this problem where they used to get bored during the season. They'd be blasting through teams. They'd be on 14-3 runs in terms of wins and losses in the middle of the season. This year, Malone had them all geared up to remember, and Jokic's text had them all geared up to remember to finish strong. But we didn't come into the playoffs kind of like a little bit like the Avalanche here locally, firing on all cylinders. We need to be peaking at the right time. And they're not even playing good basketball, and they're still potentially going to beat the second or third best team in the league, or first best if they beat our ass. So, I just feel like it'd be really cool if we had like an 8th grade come to Jesus moment where we went back to basics and we're like, put our arms around each other. Everybody makes so much of, the Nuggets winning on the power of friendship. They're going to need all of it on Sunday because Jokic is going to show up. That's going to happen. I mean, his 9-minute stare at the players finishing the game last night, he looked utterly pissed. And we all think, Jokic doesn't like basketball or whatever, or like that's the projection. He's trolling us always, and he has his own things going on he didn't want us to know about. To me, it seems like he's just sitting there like, why do I have to play another game? I'm going to play another game. He's going to show up. But, like, is AG going to show up? I think AG will probably show up. The question is, KCP will show up. He'll play defense, and he'll have 10 points. Will Jamal Murray and MPJ show up? If they don't show up, we don't even need them to be great. They've proven it over and over and over. They just need to be solid-ish, right? Jamal had, like, 18 and 16 in the games 3 and 4 or something like that. And we still won once handily and once semi-dramatically, but pretty handily. Like, it wasn't like super. Now we're on Sunday. Will Murray show up? Will MPJ show up? MPJ has been admirable with all the distractions, but will Jamal Murray show up? Because if he shows up, pretty damn good chance we're going to win. If he doesn't show up, what does Malone do to make adjustments and pull the plug quickly? Or I hope we just don't get to that point.
I love sorry, Kalle. I love this point Andrew just made about Nuggets being able to win really serious games against serious opponents with Jamal just being average. And that's not something that was possible even last year. I don't think so. So what happened there, and like what should the Nuggets do to try to ensure to get at least an average game from Jamal?
I mean, the 3 days rest will help for sure. He's going to have a couple days off. I think that's going to be huge. Unfortunately, every day you can buy with the Jamal calf thing is just valuable at this point because it's not going away. But I also think like the Nuggets really, really seriously need to just look at playing Jokic and AG at point guard and just playing with Christian instead of Jamal. And you're going to up your defense. Your offense shouldn't. I mean, if Jamal's the whole point of not having a defender out there is because you want your offense to be able to move. But if your offense isn't moving anyway, you might as well throw an extra defender out there, a guy who's obviously got the best body to throw it and demonstrated through this series. And you might be a little bit smaller than you intended, especially, across 5 compared to Minnesota, which wouldn't be a problem against any other team in the league, but is against Minnesota. The other thing is you got to hope Mike Conley doesn't have as good of a game as he did last game. If you can throw a couple bodies at Mike Conley, but if Mike Conley hits 6 threes, you're done. Like, it's just, that's the reality of it.
So, Mike, we've seen the Nuggets being really, really good against these Timberwolves, even with an average game from Jamal. Is it because the Timberwolves are not as good as the Lakers last year when you really need greatness from Jamal? Or is it just like the rest of the Nuggets team is just better now, so they can survive that?
I think, the way Kalle put it up top about the team being seamless, I think is on the nose, right? When they are running, when they're clicking, it's a seamless experience. And a part of that seamless experience for that engine to run, for that to happen, isn't just Jamal Murray, the scorer, it's Jamal Murray, the threat, right? And when Jamal is that threat, then all of a sudden, all of the rest of the pieces are a little more spread out. Everybody's paying a little more attention to the dagger that beat the Lakers in 2 games, through that last series. And that makes everything run a little better when he's running 4 of 18, or spending more time talking about how he's getting beat up, and he is getting beat up. But when he's focused more on that than the next play, that's where things start to fall apart because the rest of that machine collapses in on itself a little bit. I think the other thing that we can quite probably count on, because it seems like, unfortunately, Jamal counts on it sometimes a little too much with that ever-ending chip on his shoulder, is that an embarrassing Game 6 is going to be I'm going to come show you Game 7. Let's hope that's a good thing.
Andy, you're freezed again. Incredible. Every time he's supposed to be on.
I think I'm freezing him. It's when I talk, Andy freezes.
Yeah. He's just so impressed, and yeah. Okay. Let's now. I think we've covered Jamal pretty well right now. Unless you have something more to tell me about his game as a hope of being better in Game 7, next to him just being healthier.
I mean, we've always called Jamal a bright lights merchant. The brights will never be brighter than they are Sunday. We'll see.
Their backs really are against the wall now.
It's well said.
Yeah.
Consistency. I need consistency there. For the Nuggets, need consistency there. That's up to him. So,
Andrew, welcome back.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on with my internet, but something's happening.
It's just you're too high in the mountains right now. So
yeah,
it's that Highlands Ranch internet is what it is.
Yeah, that's right. I had a couple of those moose walk back in the backyard and hit a transformer. Were we on the discussion of what do we do, or where were we?
Yeah, it's just about Jamal. Give us some hope. Tell us why he's gonna be so much better in Game 7.
I think he's going to be better because of the first thing that Kalle said, which is he's going to have 3 days off. So regardless, he's just in a better mood when he doesn't. Like, one of the greatest things about Jamal is how tough he is. His dad, who it's really touching to see all the time on the sideline, and they connect, and it's, he's the guy who made him go out and do push-ups in the snow, while he's shooting free throws as a kid. So he's got that steeliness, but he needs to be not feeling completely terrible to be at even average or at his best. So that'll be good. But I think adjustment wise, back to like the theme of, youth coaching or something like that. Like, ultimately we have to play a lot harder. We have to make shots, but I want Malone to this is where Malone and Jokic or whoever on the leader that need to hear, or that Jamal needs to hear from, need to step up and go. There needs to be a plan to engage Jamal in a different way, in my opinion, in the short and long term. Because you look at their family lives, you look at their personal lives and kind of how they carry themselves. You see like Jokic is super motivated by his family. KCP is super motivated by his family. Gordon's focused. Christian Brown is focused. Like, MPJ is more focused in the face of ridiculous adversity. And it feels like when he's on the court and, MPJ's had some games where he's had I think 4 shots or 7 shots, it just feels like viscerally. And I'm not trying to say I love Jamal Murray. He is the juxtaposition and the unfortunate circumstance for him is he's the king he has a lion heart. And so it's all on him all the time as the X factor. And that's a great position to be in because it means he's playing in meaningful games all the time and in meaningful situations. And he rises to those occasions like crazy. He's bailed himself and the team out a million times. But it'd be cool if you felt like when he was on the court that he was like, how can I get MPJ involved? How can I get Christian Brown involved? How can I get KCP to cut to the basket and not just, camp out, or AG or whoever's not moving or whatever the case may be. Or how do I contribute by having 7 rebounds this game or 10 rebounds, or, when I average 3 or 4, Malone, Jokic, whatever, they need to reach Murray on a short and long-term level because he is right or wrong, he's the heart of the team. And if he's not passing, if he's not involving other people and he's doing like hero ball, it looks like the team kind of like at times with their body language acknowledges, like there are fully times where I'm like seeing MPJ wide open or about to be wide open, where it's like he knows that he doesn't need to cut because Jamal's going to take the shot. It's like, guys, so this is like, we need to play for each other. You need to rediscover the joy. You need to do all the things because they need to reach them. Like when you're a CEO of a company or a sales manager or whatever it is, you treat each employee as motivated differently. They know how to motivate Jokic. He's motivating himself quite well. They know how to motivate all these guys. Someone's got to reach Murray personally somehow, I think, beyond the rest, that we'll get lucky enough to have 3 days rest and he'll probably score 20 points and we'll probably won't even think about this again.
Jamal is the heart of the team and you're not going far without a functioning heart. So yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good analogy. Okay, let's take one more short break and then we'll move to the other starters. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back. So Nikola Jokic was amazing in Game 4 and Game 5. Last night, the Timberwolves oversold on stopping him as a scorer, but the Nuggets couldn't capitalize on that. Mike, what was your biggest impression of Nikola's games last week?
I mean, that Game 5 was the masterpiece that everybody has painted it to be, right? It's there, and everybody talks about the third quarter. I thought there were a couple of quarters in there that you just couldn't have painted much better than he did. He is in a spot where I think he was still making all the right decisions last night. He still was making enough of his shots to be a force and scoring the way he should. Just an insane amount of zeros after zeros after zeros down the rest of that box sheet last night. So I think he's your most consistent piece. God, there's my obvious statement for the day. But he's the part that never goes away for you that way. And I think AG is more and more getting to be that way. I see consistency across AG's game that way. He probably needs to have something close to another, at least Game 4, if not Game 5, for us to make sure that we put this thing away. My opinion.
Kalle, can the Nuggets win without like a 40-piece from Nikola?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like just look at the history of. I mean, the Nuggets only won one playoff game in history where Jokic scored 40 or more points. So, and it was the other night. So, I mean, usually the best strategy for beating the Nuggets is to make Jokic a scorer historically. I'm not saying that he's not going to look to score. I mean, I think he's going to be an absolute monster, especially after the picture. I mean, him standing for the entire final, probably 30 minutes of real life time, 8 minutes of game time the other night, and just staring at the court with in anger in his eyes I don't think I've ever seen, tells me where he's at mentally going to this next game. But even on rewatch, last night's game was not or the other night's game was not as bad as I think people thought. Like, Jokic made all the right pass. I mean, the shots just were not falling for anybody on the roster. I mean, Jokic had some beautiful passes, especially through the first two quarters before things really got out of hand and he kind of looked like he was trying to take over. I mean, Jokic was trying to play his game at his best, and it is his entire life. It has always been the right play. You know, whether he should be a scorer or not, he has always played the way that if you make the right play, if you make that extra pass, it's going to be better for you in the aggregate. And I think that's sort of what they need out of Jokic. If Jokic even has a 20-10-10 game, I think the Wolves are done. Because that means at least one other guy has it going. And if you even get a decent game, I think Jokic is good enough at dictating I think he figured out the pace of this series in Game 3. And I think if the refs are not allowing him to just be absolutely mauled on every play, I think he can dictate the pace of the game at his will. And that doesn't necessarily mean he needs to be a scorer or a facilitator. I don't know what the stat line is going to look like because it's going to look different every game. But I think he figured out the pace of this game and how he needs to play it and how he needs to read the defense in order to get there. And so I'm not going to give you a specific stat line, but if Jokic plays his game, which I think he will, and is able to play his game with just think how different does yesterday go if Mike hits 2 of those early looks and they're only down 15 instead of 25. It's could be an entirely different game. So he just needs to keep playing his game, and I think he will. And they're gonna send more doubles at him just because it worked so well last game. It would be foolish for them to go away from that game plan. So they're going to be sending more doubles, especially at the top of the pick and roll. They're trying to break up that high pick and roll that they have going even outside of the arc that was so absolutely deadly for them in games 3, 4, and 5. So they're going to try and break that up. They're going to send extra bigs at him, and they're going to double almost every time with probably a wing instead of so that they can have either Rudy or Cat still on the baseline there. And I expect that to be the game plan going forward, and it's all going to come down to, can Mike hit his shots? Can Jamal hit his shots? Can KCP, if Christian gets a look, is it going to go down? If he can hit 1 of 3, it would be huge, So it's just, it's going to come down to the other guys.
So, Andy, who do you think that Jokic stare was pointed at last night?
I don't know. I don't know if it was like, I think it might have been just pointed at the rest of the team, in the sense that it's like, I know him personally. I think, like we said, he doesn't let on how he feels about a lot of things, because that's just innately who he is. But you could tell, Kalle eloquently stated earlier how he was kind of longingly looking at the court and just sort of sizing it up. And I think it's like, yes, he wants to go back to Serbia. Yes, he wants to go to the pool, blah, blah, blah. But I really don't think he wants to lose on the road in Minnesota, and then have that be the end and then have it be like, well, whatever. So I don't necessarily think it was – I don't think he was like staring down the other team or being intimidating. I think he was like stewing on – he was in like a little bit of a Jokic catatonic state, like just assessing what it all means and getting, still being as – hyped as he is for a regular basketball game, but not having a reason to play probably doesn't feel very good. And I just really hope that, Jokic can have good games, bad games. Most of them good, obviously, most of the time. And for big moments, there's pretty much been never a time where he doesn't show up. But I really can't understand the lack of fight in games 2 and 6. That shit really scares me, because it's like, man, when Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Naz Reid and all these big, good, lengthy players outside of Rudy and Karl Towns attack you like it's a CYO basketball game, and your coach is going to be disappointed in you unless you trap a person until they cry in the corner. That's the intensity that they were playing with, and we're not playing with that intensity. And so Jokic's intensity has been high. My question is, who is going to go to the basket and finish? Who is going to finish around the fucking rim? Excuse me. Christian Braun has been doing a better job of it. He's had some really tough moments up and down this year, but at least he's trying and he's going to the basket. What would really bum out the Wolves and break their back is if they were in foul trouble because we kept attacking the rim and challenging them at the rim. And yeah, you're going to get swatted by Rudy. You're going to get swatted by Edwards. You're going to get swatted at various times. But you know what? Maybe they're in foul trouble, and the attack is going to break their spirit faster than us counting on Jokic and then kicking out. And AG, they challenged him. AG stepped up. He's like, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want their game plan to be leave me open and have be my fault that we fucked up. AG has stepped up. He has completely answered the call. Will MPJ answer that call? Will Murray answer that call? You know, will Reggie and Holiday and Brown keep coming in and giving, to be honest, pretty good minutes? But the heart of that, the three-man heart of that lineup of MPJ, AG, and Murray, one of the three of those guys can't be the only one running. You need two of the three of those guys to be cranking. It's the playoffs. This is arguably the best team in the whole league. Like, the ego death needs to happen super fast, because guess what's not fun? Not being champions.
I remember a year and a half ago when DNVR crew came to Belgrade and Sombor. Kalle was there, and Adam was interviewing like random people on the street, asking them of their confidence level in Nuggets players. And the funniest thing to him was whenever he would ask about Aaron Gordon, everybody would just say, yeah, he's a 10. Like, we believe Aaron Gordon wholeheartedly. And you know what? 2 years later, like, Aaron Gordon is definitely that guy next to Joker that you can always rely on. Now, he was spectacular in games 4 and 5. And, you know, his production wasn't there in game 6 because he's not the guy that can create his own shot like on a regular basis. And when, you know, Nikola was taken out of being a fulcrum of the offense, of course, that didn't help Aaron as well. But on the other hand, the other forward, Michael Porter, we are talking about him like being hesitant to take semi-open shots after a couple of misses at the beginning of the games, and then he settles for tough contested mid-range shots or just resets the action with too few seconds left in the possession. I'm not sure what is more backbreaking. Is it Mike's hesitance on offense or like slowness on defense? He's just not there enough. Mike, do you think Aaron can help Mike get up to speed for Game 7?
They certainly work as quite a tandem together. It's been a surprise as to how well those pieces have clicked to me. You could see how they fit as a whole, but those two as a tandem more often than not. I think I read the other day, if I remember right, that Mike is still Aaron's most sought out assist target, right? So yeah, I do. I think Aaron can absolutely help Mike find those spots to get his confidence going. I think Aaron is also Aaron is one of the more relaxed guys on the team as well, and I think Aaron is one of the people who could put his arm around Mike and just tell him to keep shooting, keep putting it up. You know, the numbers will come out of the right shots in the right spaces, not the contested stuff that you broke down. So,
Kalle,
I think you can.
Give us some hope for Mike.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Number one, statistically, like, it's unlikely for him to play worse than he did the last couple games. So I hope there's just some positive regression to the mean for him. I really like the symbiotic relationship that him and AG have sort of developed together. The thing that's been surprising for me about Mike is how positionally unaware on the defensive side of the floor he's been. It's something that we used to talk about in 2019 and in the bubble, and he would get sat late in games, but really hasn't been a problem for 2 years. And it wasn't a problem at all in the Lakers series where he had similar difficult matchups. I mean, he was even holding his own against LeBron on a couple of ISO matchups, and it's just, for whatever reason, whatever Minnesota's doing this series has him completely frazzled, where he's just out of position on defense all over the place. What I would like to see Mike, and I think this will help on, I think Mike's entire game starts on the offensive side of the floor. I think that's where he feels in and out of a game, and I think if the three's not falling or if he's feeling hesitant there, Mike has really, really improved his floater and his mid-range game this year. And I'm not even necessarily saying he should take those long contested twos where he pumps and steps 1 or 2 feet in but below the three-point line. But, I mean, the analytics show that, like, 4 to 10-foot two-pointers, if you can hit them at, like, a 60% clip, are just as valuable as threes. And Mike is damn near those levels for 2 seasons now. So if he's not getting those, get in 4 or 5. You're so much taller than everybody that's going to be guarding you. Take a 5-foot jumper, man. Take a floater. You have intentionally expanded your game to include those things. So look for them. Like if your three's not falling, if those long jumpers aren't falling, if your typical game is not falling, get to a different thing that you've developed which you can hit at nearly a 60% clip of the time, and it's nearly as efficient as a 3-point shot. And if you get your points that way, you're going to feel more engaged on the defensive side of the floor. And if I could see him pull in, drive that pump fake, and pull up from 5 to 10 feet and knock down 3 or 4 of those in a row, I think his game will be much more settled. And that's what I want to see next game.
Andy? Hope for Mike?
I think there's a lot of hope for Mike. I mean, his rhythm has honestly looked pretty good, even when he's missing shots. Like, I love his footwork looks good. His rhythm looks good. I think the difference is something that Hastings always talks about in the broadcast is when teams play extremely physical against the Nuggets, they tend to not, certainly not always, because they certainly have landed their share of blows over the years, but they can get they can recoil. That can be their response. Is like he always says, people getting in their chili. It makes me laugh every time. But if people get in their chili, it's like Mike's got to do a thing where he uses his biggest asset, which is the fear of his jump shot, to his advantage. He needs to slow down, get ready to take his beautiful shot, and then blow by people and go to the rim. And then when he does that 3 out of the first 5 times, then they'll be waiting for him and he'll be open again. What's happening is Alexander Walker, McDaniels, these dudes are in their chili, period. Like this, it is a oppressive, suffocating, insane middle school and high school basketball full court defense, that is wearing them out. And the response has not been to go, oh, you're going to punch me? Well, I'm going to punch you. The response has been 3 of the 5 of them to kind of recoil at any given time and sort of just accept the pressure they're getting. They can't accept the pressure they're getting. They need to reset the tone. We're the champions. We're going to punch you back. They got to make them pay. And they got to make them pay at the rim a bunch. Jokic will make them pay. And then all those open shots, they don't even have to shoot that well. We were like 3 for 17 from 3 or 3 or 4 for 21 at one point from 3 in like the second quarter or the beginning of the third. And it was the difference in the game. It's like, they need to hit like 3 3-pointers and they're in the game. We can all relax our butts, like Mike has a flamethrower. He needs to decide that he's going to use it, even if he's got Mike Conley, all these other – Mike Conley's, not even a big guy. But the intensity with which they're playing is completely night and day, in my opinion, at times. And that's a huge problem. Intensity is all attitude and effort. And all 5 of those guys have a chance to cement their legacy, have the greatest memories of their lives, all those things. Or – we can start decaying and having discussions about whether, the best 2-man game is Jamal and Joker, but can't Joker have a lot of good 2-man games with a lot of people? Because he makes everybody around him fucking better. So I don't really have that discussion. I'd rather have Jamal show up and MPJ show up, and we just forget this happened because they eke out this one and then they start kicking the Mavericks' ass.
Yeah, I agree. The best case scenario, the nicest case scenario, I want to say, is like, let's just keep the good thing going on and let's have Jamal be his old self again. Okay, let's take one last short break and then we'll get a bit weird. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so guys, there's a lot of writing potential here on this panel. So give me now your weirdly detailed prediction for how Game 7 will look like, and of course, who will win. So whoever wants to start.
I'm going to say we're going to narrowly eke out a it'll be a low scoring game, but we're going to score 102 points. They're going to score like 90 points because Anthony Edwards is going to be great. And our guys are going to show up on defense. And we're going to miss some more bunnies at the rim. And we're going to miss some other jumpers we should make. But we're going to score 100-plus points. And we're going to show up. And I think it's going to be, to be frank, Gordon and Jokic, again, a little MPJ mixed in. I'm hoping and praying that some or all of the bench show their attitude and pride again. And that will be enough. I don't not have faith in Jamal because he's shown that in the biggest moments, he's like unbeatable, but I'm just not counting on it. I'd really love to see KCP have 24 points. I'd love to see. So, like all these things about the Nuggets that are great include ball movement and whatever. I'd just like them to shoot. Like when they're open, I'd like them to not make the extra 3 passes. I just like KCP, who's like a 43% free throw shooter, or 3-point shooter, just take a shot. I'd like Michael Porter Jr. to take a shot. I'd like Jamal Murray to pretend like he's taking a shot and then roast somebody or do 28 Kobe fadeaways. But I'd like them to shoot and stop diddling with the ball. And they will. That's my prediction. 102-90.
Okay, Kalle?
So I think it's going to start off kind of like a rock fight, low scoring first. Second quarter, the Nuggets are going to have like a 10-minute stretch where for the first time this series, everybody's clicking at the same time. And I don't think we've seen that yet. And I would love to see it. And I think they just balloon a lead out there, 15-plus points. And then I think it turns back into a rock fight and the shots stop falling a little bit for the Nuggets and they start falling a little bit more for the Timberwolves. And I think the Nuggets are going to just like fend off, balloon between 5 and 10 points the rest of that lead, the rest of the game, and just fend it off, and then pull out a close one. That's sort of how I feel like it's going to go.
Mike?
I can't think of a more Nuggets story ending than I have a feeling that the first quarter is going to suck hard. I think we're going to get to the end of the first quarter and be like, oh, God, this is not a good thing. I think we're going to close that gap to something palatable by the end of the half. I think somewhere in the third, right as it looks like that's about to start to slip again, Malone is going to have one of those aneurysm-style timeouts. And I think from there, we're going to close them all the way in by the fourth. And I think miraculously somehow that 10 minutes is actually going to come in the fourth quarter instead of the second quarter that Kalle's talking about. And we're going to, please God, walk away with this thing. So, God dang, I'm too old for this. I'm going to be somewhere in that third quarter, trying to figure out if it's the heart attack or just a little bit of extra stress. So.
Yeah, I'm going to predict something similar to Game 5. And the difference to Game 5 would be like at the end of first quarter, Reggie Jackson comes in and he scores like 15 points in 5 minutes. And the Nuggets get a 15-point lead. And they just like do this to the Minnesota, like just keep them on the safe distance for the rest of the game. And like Adam Silver is like trying to get the ratings up, but nobody's actually interested in the game because it's not that close. And I don't know, it's not a serious prediction. I'm actually super nervous for the game on Sunday. It's probably like a 90-88 game, like against Utah in Game 7 in the bubble, and it's gonna be a heart attack kind of game. And you know what? I don't know. Maybe we deserve it. Like maybe we got too much happiness last year with 16-4 run, and maybe we just need to be on the edge of a knife these playoffs. But if the Nuggets somehow come out as a winner and go to the Western Conference Finals, I'm gonna feel great about them again.
Can I just say real quickly that we are, I know that we sort of dramatically said this at the beginning of the podcast, but I just want to talk about choose your own adventure novels and multiple universes for a moment, because in the one that we think we're in or have thought we were in until this game 7, to be honest, if we win this game and when we win this game, right? Hey, everybody. You know, and then we beat the Mavericks, and then we somehow miraculously get our act together and beat the Celtics or the Knicks or whatever. You know, that timeline has Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray's numbers being retired, and potentially both in the Hall of Fame. And so I realized that some of those things are like whatever. But if I were them, and I wanted, I mean, this is like, you know, the Pistons of the early 2000s are thought of as a group. You know, the Spurs are thought of as this group. The Magic Lakers are this, the Bird Lakers are that, the Bulls, the Pistons, Bad Boys, whatever. The Nuggets have a chance to be the Warriors. The Nuggets have a chance to be emblazoned forever as this like group that like had their ups and downs, but was such a joy to watch, and they locked arms and they figured it out. Or we could be after Game 7, not looking at a total rebuild or anything weird, because obviously like that's not what it calls for. But could one member of the family go off in the other universe, go off in the other choose your own adventure? I feel like it could happen, and I really hope it doesn't, because I love Jamal Murray. I love Michael Porter Jr. I love these players. I would like for them to stay together, step up, realize what's at stake, feel the home court, and not show up with the vibe of, I have to say, like, again, I'm not shitting on Murray. I don't want to be like the new Murray, anti-Murray guy. I love Jamal Murray. If they show up out of the tunnel, like grab-assing and loose and like they don't give a shit, they are going to get stomped and they're going to get broken up.
I mean, they've got an option. Do they want to be remembered as one of the most dominant teams of the century, or do they want to be remembered as those guys that couldn't help Joker get it done? And that's on the table right now.
And
yeah,
of course,
because Bruce Brown's going to be back soon, I feel like.
If
it's not Bruce Brown, it's the next 2 Bruce Browns.
Yeah. But by some national level hot take makers, not only they let Joker down, they will say Joker is a fraud, like he had that accidental championship in 2023 and stuff like that. Okay, so I have a game prepared for you guys, just to end up on a really disturbing note or a weird note. So the game I prepared for you today is called Top Game 7 Scorers in the Nuggets History. So this is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to explain it anyway. So I want you guys to list off all of 6 guys in Denver Nuggets history who scored at least 27 total points in Game 7s playing for the Nuggets. So there have not been a lot of Game 7s in Nuggets history, by the way. And it's because back in the day, first round was only best of 5. So you needed to go to the second round to get there. So I'm just giving you some hints to help you a bit.
How many Game 7s have there been?
I don't know it off the top of my head, and I'm not gonna tell you even.
I think there's like 6 or 7. There's like 6 or 7 total, I think.
But here's the twist now. Here's the twist. There are 6 guys on this list, but you're going to get 1 point if you get the top guy on the list, and you're going to get 6 points if you get the bottom guy on the list. So the guy who is 6th in total points in Game 7s. So that's the twist introduced by Voya, my buddy Voya, who is the only theoretical game show host in the world who is meaner than I am. So I would go a different way, but I really like his twist on this game. So, Kalle, did you hear what I just said? You had your headphones
No,
on?
there was something that happened at the office. I had to get up for like 30
okay.
seconds, but
So
I'll figure it out.
So basically, you guys need to guess the 6 guys who had the most points scored in Game 7s in a Nuggets jersey. 6 guys, all of them scored 27 or more points in their careers, 7-game careers. And since we don't have any different way to solve who's going to be first, we're just going to go alphabetically by the first name. So Andy will go first, Kalle will go second, and Mike will go third. And by the way, Kalle, if you guess a guy who has the most points on the list, you'll get only 1 point. And if you guess a guy who is 6th on the list, you'll get 6 points.
Okay.
So that's the twist.
But the bar has to be minimum 27 points. And
minimum 27. I'm only interested in the top 6 guys. If you guess a 7th.
Sevens. And so this is throughout Nuggets history.
Throughout Nuggets history, only Game 7s. Total points. So if a guy played in 8 Game 7s, he has a pretty good chance of having a lot of points. But nobody had more than 4. So we'll see. So Andy, what is your first guess?
So I get the most points for picking the most obscure person. Right?
Yes, but here's the thing. If you go too obscure, you'll get no points. So
right.
It's not the idea to
okay,
guess
well,
a guy
I'm just
who
going to
has
go
2
with
points.
I'll go with somebody who's like, well, 1 or 2 are super obvious. So, God. I'll just take Jamal, I guess, which will be the least amount of points.
Jamal Murray is number 1 on the list with 97 points. That's 1 point for Andy.
I'm still
Kalle,
alive.
You are. Oh, by the way, you all get 3 guesses, and we'll see if we get all 6 of them. So, Kalle.
I mean, I don't want to be wrong here and be off the board, but so I don't want to take a safe pick. I'm trying to think, what era did no, because I don't think the Chauncey Mello Nuggets ever went to 7. Oh,
Also, don't
27 points.
Don't forget that best of 7 series in the first round became a thing like only 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
Before that was best of 5.
Yeah. Man, who would be? Oh, I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess Mutombo and just probably be wrong.
You are going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Mutombo is not on the top 6 list. Not sure if he ever played a Game 7. I don't have it in front of me.
I don't even know. I was trying to go for the high points for before my era.
You wanted to think out of the box. I get it. Mike.
First off, I liked the Murray guess because I think wasn't one of his 50 pieces in the bubble on a Game 7. Am I wrong? So he went off twice in Game 7.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go way back and guess that maybe one of those was like in the season that DT, David Thompson, was trying to go nuts and win that scoring title that year. And so he was scoring so much. I think they went a long way in one of those playoffs too. I'm going to say David Thompson, Skywalker.
So David Thompson played in only 1 Game 7 in his Nuggets career, but he scored 37 points. So that's actually 4 points for you, Mike, because he is 4th on the list. He's 4th on the list, 4 points.
Jamal had 97.
David Thompson had 37 in 1 game. Jamal Murray had 97 in 4 games. Back to Andy.
I literally don't know otherwise, so I'm just going to say Jokic and stay in the game.
Jokic, you're staying in the game because he's number 2 on the list, so 2 points for you and Andy.
I got those
Back to Kalle.
shot points.
Oh, I mean, I got to get myself back in here at this point. So I don't know. Abdul Rauf, did he ever do it? I don't know. He was a scorer.
He is not on the list.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It was a good guess.
It was a good guess. I don't know.
It was a good guess. It was a good guess. Mike.
don't. Mm, who else was in that era that Kale's going around to? They had a game 7 against
So we have
Utah that
97,
year.
97 from Jamal, 96 from Joker, and 37 from David Thompson. 3 more guys on the list. Number 3, number 5, and number 6. So top points are still in play.
I'm gonna go with my guy, LaFonso Ellis.
LaFonso Ellis is not on the list. Back to Andy.
Sadly, I don't know. It's got to be old guys. It's got to be like old guys. I'm trying to I don't think I think Kalle is correct that the Melo team never got there, so it doesn't matter. It's mostly I think I knew we were talking about Game 7, so I Googled it a little bit ago, and I think there was most of them were in the modern era. So I know one of them's super old, but players outside of that, I just want to say Kiki Vandeweghe or Alex English or something, but I don't think that's probably right. Kiki Vandeweghe.
Kiki Vandeweghe is not on the list. Kalle.
He never went there. I know the answer to this, but I can't think of any of the other modern players.
I just have to name guys from this era because I think that's all that's left. So I'm going to guess Gary Harris.
Gary Harris is number 3 on the list. That's
No
3 points
way.
for Kalle. Number 3, 44 points in 4 games. You know, guys,
But did he have it?
when somebody plays in 4 games, he's gonna get some points.
Wow.
But that's
44.
cumulatively. He didn't score any 27 in one game, right?
No. I'm talking about total points in game 7s.
The aggregate.
whole
Okay,
game.
I was wrong on that. I
Aggregate.
thought it was
Yeah.
singular games, so that's on me.
Oh, okay.
I did too. It's my bad.
I'm gonna
I
give
figured
you
it out the
a-
second we said that Jamal had 90-some points. I was like, oh, we're stacking this shit up, basically.
Well, you're smarter than us,
97.
Mike.
No. It was the
You're a
moment
good
that I
writer.
went, oh. It was the moment that I went, oh, I was figuring this out wrong. So I was on the
Okay.
same page as you guys.
Mike, you're on the clock. We still
Danilo
need
Gallinari.
Danilo Gallinari is not on the list.
He was hurt that year. They did go to 7.
Oh, that's
that year, but
right.
He was
God
hurt.
dang it.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's when
One
he
more
busted
chance
it.
for everybody. So now you know that we're looking for the total points in game 7s by a player. We still need number 5 and number 6, the top points. So right now Mike has
is it on
4
me?
points, Kalle has 3, and Andy has 3. Yes, Andy, you're on.
Ugh.
If you get the top scorer, you win. Or
I'm
the
going to
6th
say
scorer,
MPJ.
actually. MPJ, surprisingly, is not on the list. Kalle.
It's got to be Paul Millsap. He's the only guy left.
Paul Millsap,
Yeah.
top 6 points
Yeah.
for Kalle.
Yeah,
he
it's
is
gotta be-
number
it's gotta
6
be
on the
Paul
list
Millsap,
with
yeah.
exactly 27 points. Again, in 4 games. Mike, you still have a chance to tie it if you guess who is number 5 on the list.
I'm trying to think if I should stick with this recent era where you've got 4 games to pile in.
And by the way, this is my favorite guy on the list.
We had
It's going to be
I was-
someone
I was-
old.
It's going to be so. Watch it
I
be
wa-
like.
that's rough.
I was blown away with this name.
If
on the
it's
list.
Torrey Craig, I swear to fucking God.
I'm going to go back to that team because I hadn't thought about the fact that was Danilo's blowout year. Let's say Wilson Chandler had a monster game in that game 7.
Ooh, yeah. No, he's not on the list.
Nah.
He's not- It actually is Torrey Craig. Torrey
No
Craig
way.
scored
Shut up.
4 games.
That's this game. Fuck this game.
I'm an evil game show host.
That's
This is
amazing.
the whole list.
Fucking Torrey Craig.
This is the whole list.
Wow.
Like, we have 5 guys with 4 game 7s and
Yeah.
1 David Thompson with 1 game. So this is the reason he got on this list too. So yeah, Torrey Craig, congratulations. You're the 5th best scorer in Nuggets Game 7 history. Well, so far.
God,
We'll see
Torrey.
what's going to happen after Sunday. Okay, guys, before we go out, do you want to plug something?
Watch the. I mean, I'm sure everybody that's here already does, but watch the DNVR DNBA show. I think, do a good
It's
job.
a pretty good show. It's a pretty good
I
show.
think we're good. Yeah.
One of the best things going, for sure.
Mike, you have a column about basically all the professional sports right now. On
I was driving home from the airport last night after last night's game and had a couple of hours to really reflect on the idea of failure. So that's what I wrote about this week. Basically,
all of the Denver sports for that.
Yeah. Well, there've been a lot of examples lately of some pretty Richter scale highs and lows for a lot of the Colorado teams lately. So yeah.
Andy?
I'd like to plug Mike's column on DNVR. I'd like to plug the DNBA show. I'd like to plug what a great job Kalle does keeping the whole ship running against insurmountable odds with no resources. I'd also like to plug Miroslav. Go to his Patreon and start giving. Okay, it's like the second most popular DNVR show behind the DNBA show. So get into it. Start giving Miroslav money. It's not that hard. You don't have to give like $1 million. I know inflation sucks, but you can't buy a house now anyway. Just throw him $100. Throw him $10 a month. You know, he's doing this all for you and for because he has a huge heart. Let's go. Give Miroslav some money. Go to his Patreon. Sign up now. You know, he'll send you a free bottle of Rocky or something. I don't know.
The link is in the description. Okay, that is all we prepared for today, and you should take the word prepared very loosely. Once again, I'd like to thank all of the Patreon supporters, as Andy mentioned, but especially my Sicko tier supporters, Peter Plummer, Daniel Lynch, and Pavle Mihailovic. Be safe, be kind to everybody, call your mom, and until next weekend, Brendan Goodwin.